Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. Before we get started, don't forget to like and subscribe. Also, drop a comment letting us know where you're watching from and what time it is there. That way, YouTube will keep showing you more stories like this. Now, let's begin. It's been a few years, but I still can't forget what I saw on the security camera that morning. The image of the back door of the gas station slowly opening, but no one walking out. I'm Megan, 32 years old. I work the morning shift at an old gas station in a small town in Montana. It's pretty remote, with just a few gas pumps, a small convenience store, and a gravel parking lot in the back. I would arrive at 6 a.m. to take over for the night shift employee, a woman named Dora. The stillness of this place, especially before the sun was fully up, always made me feel a little uneasy. It was a morning in autumn. I arrived at the gas station about 10 minutes earlier than usual. When I walked into the convenience store, a middle-aged man was standing at the counter, his hands in his pockets, looking a little grumpy. The counter was empty. I guessed this customer had been waiting for a while and was getting annoyed. "Dora?" I called out loudly, but there was no answer. I quickly apologized to the man and checked him out. After the man left, I looked around the store. The counter was as neat as usual, the cash register was locked, and the shelves were not disturbed. I went to the back stockroom and called out a few more times. I checked the bathroom, but there was no sign of Dora. On the break room table, I saw her phone. I wondered if she had an emergency and left without having time to let me know. I ran outside and looked at the parking lot. Dora's car was still parked near the back. A feeling of confusion started to rise in me. Dora always followed work procedures. No matter what, she would always inform me and the boss about the situation. I called my boss and briefly told him everything. My boss told me to check the security camera and call the police if necessary. I opened the computer at the counter and logged into the CCTV system. The station had 3 cameras, one at the counter, one at the gas pumps, and one in the back parking lot. My hands trembled a little as I rewound the footage from 4 a.m. when Dora was still at the counter. The video began with Dora standing behind the counter, occasionally glancing at the clock on the wall. She looked normal, maybe just a little tired from the long night shift. Then suddenly she looked up, her eyes directed toward the back door, as if she had just heard something. After a few seconds of listening, Dora quickly stepped away from the counter and went straight toward the back door. I immediately switched to the parking lot camera, not understanding why I felt so tense. The screen showed the door slowly opening, the hinges creaking softly, but there was no Dora, no one there at all. I rewound it in slow motion, my eyes glued to the screen, watching every second. The door opened. The air seemed to stand still, then the door closed. I still didn't see her. "No way, what is this?" I mumbled to myself. I checked the time again, making sure the 2 cameras were perfectly synchronized. The camera wasn't broken. Everything else on the screen looked completely normal. Dora's car, the trash can behind the store. But Dora seemed to have vanished into the darkness. A feeling of fear washed over me, making my hands and feet go cold. I tried to find a logical explanation. Maybe she had stayed close to the wall, avoiding the camera's angle, and then ran straight into the pine forest behind. But why would she do that? Did someone call her out? Or was someone waiting, threatening her? These thoughts made me shiver and look around the store. Suddenly I felt scared of this familiar place. I called the police. While waiting, I went out to the parking lot and stood right at the back door, observing everything. The ground was covered with gravel and dry leaves. The dense pine forest was about 50 yards away. I imagined Dora running in there. But for what reason? Where did she go? The police arrived. They thoroughly checked the store, the parking lot, and re-watched the video. An officer took careful notes and asked me about Dora. I told him what I knew. Dora was 28, lived alone in a small apartment near downtown Livingston, and had been working the night shift for 2 years. The officer asked if Dora had any enemies, or if there was anyone suspicious in the area. I was stunned for a few seconds. I said I didn't know. Dora and I weren't close enough to know too much about each other. The police checked Dora's car. The door was unlocked, and the keys were still in the ignition. A cup of cold coffee was on the passenger seat, next to a neatly folded sweater. There were no signs of a struggle or an attack. The police called a search team, but the forest was too vast, and the autumn wind had caused a thick layer of fallen leaves, covering any possible traces. Dora's apartment was also searched, but there was nothing unusual. No clues were found. In the following weeks, the story of Dora's disappearance spread throughout the town. The local newspaper published a short article asking for information from the public. A few people said they had seen Dora, but the information they provided was not helpful. 3 years have passed, and Dora is still missing without a trace. I still work at the gas station, but every time I open the back door to take out the trash, I always feel a strange, cold draft. I don't believe in ghosts or the supernatural, but I can't understand how Dora disappeared. Was she afraid of something in the forest? Or was someone really waiting in the darkness where the camera couldn't record? I always want to believe that Dora simply quit her job and is living peacefully somewhere far away. But then, every time the back door creaks open in the wind, I find myself involuntarily turning my head, half hoping, half afraid, that Dora will walk in. It all started when I was 17. That's when I got my first job working the night shift at a gas station. My parents weren't thrilled about me working late, but I was determined to help them with part of my college tuition. The gas station where I worked was lonely, like an island in the endless cornfields of Ohio. At night, the dim light only lit up a small corner, and the rest was shrouded in darkness. The thing I feared most was also the last task before the end of my shift: taking out the trash. The big dumpster was in the back corner of the parking lot, where the light didn't reach. Every time I walked out there, I would imagine someone was hiding among the trash bags or in the darkness, ready to grab me. I tried to convince myself to let go of those crazy thoughts, but I couldn't. Every time I went to take out the trash, I would perform a small ritual of my own. I'd turn on my flashlight, look around carefully, and then run quickly to the dumpster, throw the bag in, and immediately go back inside. I still remember that shift. There were only 3 customers all night. At 2 a.m., I locked the cash register and turned off the lights in the store, leaving only the lights in the gas pump area on. I picked up the trash bag and walked out the back door as usual. The parking lot was empty, with only 2 trucks parked in the far corner. I was walking toward the dumpster when I suddenly heard a voice. "Hey, you!" The whisper was raspy, like someone was trying to hold their breath. I froze, my heart pounding. The trash bag fell from my hand. I turned around and looked, my eyes trying to find the source of the sound. But there was nothing but darkness. Maybe it was the wind blowing through a truck window, or maybe it was the radio from a cab. I tried to reassure myself. I bent down to pick up the trash bag, intending to continue, when I heard it again. "Excuse me, could you help me?" For a brief moment, I almost believed that someone was in trouble, but something felt wrong. Why would they whisper if they really needed help? Why wouldn't they step into the light or come into the store? With that thought, I dropped the trash bag, turned, and ran toward the back door. Just as I was about to touch the doorknob, out of the corner of my eye, I saw a tall, dark figure approaching. Luckily, I made it inside the store, slammed the door shut, and with trembling hands, I turned the lock and engaged the deadbolt. I ran to the front of the store, turned on the lights to check the front door lock, and then called my dad. "Dad, I need you to come pick me up. There's someone suspicious around the parking lot." My dad didn't ask any more questions. About 15 minutes later, the headlights of his car shone into the store. I ran out and jumped into the car without looking back. On the way home, I told my dad about the whispering voice. He just listened without saying anything. The next morning, the gas station manager called me. The manager's voice sounded pretty exhausted. The manager told me that I didn't have to come to work that day and said that after I had left, 3 men had broken the lock on the front door to get into the store. They searched the place, took all the money from the cash register, and cleared the shelves of all the cigarette packs. They even took cans of beer and chewing gum. The security camera recorded one of them constantly looking toward the back door, where I usually took out the trash. After hearing the phone call from the manager, I was in a daze. I had been so close to a monster, but I had luckily escaped in the nick of time. The police came to see me that afternoon. They said this wasn't the first case. This group of criminals had attacked 2 other gas stations in the past month. What was special about the previous cases was that they took the night shift employees hostage and beat them to get the cash register passwords. There were no casualties, but the victims were all seriously injured. When I heard that, I broke down in tears. I was truly lucky to be here, in one piece, to tell the police everything. I quit my night job after that. My parents were very happy with that decision. In the years since, every time I think back to that terrifying night, I still get shivers thinking about how I had a close call with death. The vigilance and fear that I once thought were crazy had actually saved my life. There are moments in life when you realize that true evil doesn't have to be supernatural to be terrifying. I learned that on a late August night last year, while working the night shift at a Shell gas station in Greensboro, North Carolina. I'm Carlos, 32 years old. I'm divorced and work the night shift to earn extra money to support my son. This job is usually quiet. Only a few long-haul truckers stop by, and some drunk teenagers buy beer late at night. After my divorce, my life was already very subdued, and since I started working the night shift at this gas station, that quietness became even more profound. I even found myself reacting more slowly to every situation. That night, I was sitting behind the counter, looking at my phone. Outside, a light drizzle was falling, creating thin streaks of water on the window. The atmosphere was so quiet that I could hear the buzzing of the fluorescent lights above my head. Then the glass door burst open. A man walked in. He was big and had a disheveled and aggressive appearance. He walked straight to the counter and slammed a $50 bill down. The noise made me jump. He shouted just one word: "Gas!" I was startled and immediately stood up straight. He clenched his hands and stared at me for about 2 seconds. Without saying another word, he turned around and strode out. I put the money away, and a thought popped into my head. Just another punk. Through the glass, I saw him go straight to pump number 4. His car was parked crookedly, not in the right spot. I stood up and walked to the window to watch. At first, I thought I would watch him struggle to open the gas cap or get the nozzle in. But what happened next made me freeze. He pulled the pump nozzle out, but instead of putting it in the gas tank, he opened the passenger side door. The lights from the gas station clearly illuminated his actions as he lifted the nozzle and began spraying gas directly into the car. I stood there, horrified. My mind was trying to process what my eyes were seeing. I rushed to the control panel and slammed the emergency shutoff button. A loud alarm blared, and gas pump number 4 immediately shut down. I took out my phone, and my hands were shaking as I dialed 911. I had just managed to give the dispatcher the address. The call was interrupted when I witnessed the next horrifying scene. A girl scrambled out of the passenger side door. Her body was drenched in gasoline, and she was in a state of extreme panic. She was screaming as she ran toward the highway, each step leaving gasoline trails on the ground. "I need police now. He's doused a girl in gasoline," I yelled into the phone. The next second, the man roared like a wild animal. I quickly threw my phone down and ran to the main door to watch. He threw the pump nozzle down and ran after the girl. Although he was big, he ran terrifyingly fast. In just a few seconds, he caught up to her. The scene in front of me will haunt me for the rest of my life. The man repeatedly kicked the girl brutally. The girl curled up on the ground, trying to shield herself with her small hands. Every kick made me shiver. I couldn't just stand there anymore. I was sure I was no match for that giant of a man. But I had to at least stall him until the police arrived. Otherwise, he would crush that girl. "Stop!" I ran out and yelled, but my voice was weak against his rage. He turned to look at me, his eyes red with hatred. "This bitch is cheating. She's playing me, and I'm going to let her play with fire," he roared. My heart was pounding in my chest. The smell of gasoline was strong, and just a tiny spark would make this girl ignite instantly, like a fireball. I talked to him, trying to reason with him. I tried to make my voice sound calm. "Hey man, calm down. We can talk about this." But he didn't even look at me. Just as he put his hand in his pocket, probably to find a lighter, police sirens blared. A few seconds later, 2 police officers jumped out of their patrol car, tasers ready in their hands. They yelled at the man to stop what he was doing. The man hesitated for a second. Then, like a cornered beast, he charged at the police. The sound of electricity buzzed. His body stiffened, and he fell to the ground, convulsing for a few seconds before becoming still. I let out a gasp of relief, my entire body relaxing. Everything was okay now. An ambulance arrived a few minutes later. They quickly provided medical care to the girl. The police took my statement. They praised my courage before they left. But I didn't feel like a hero. The following nights, I worked in a state of extreme tension. Every time a customer walked in, I would watch every movement, every look. I talked to the store owner about installing more security cameras and keeping a baseball bat under the counter. After the incident, I realized that a person's rage can be truly terrifying if it's not stopped in time. Real monsters don't need fangs and claws. Sometimes it's just a normal person controlled by anger. My name is Mia, and I'm 22 years old. I work as a cashier at a Shell gas station in Texas. The station is located in the middle of a huge field. There are a few cars during the day, but after midnight, it's like a ghost town. I usually work the day shift from 6 a.m. to 2 p.m. Jack works the afternoon shift, and Tom is in charge of the night shift. But that day, Tom called in sick and couldn't come to work. He asked me to cover for him. I agreed without knowing that it would be the most terrifying night of my life. Jack handed over the afternoon shift to me at 10 p.m. He reminded me to lock the storeroom door carefully because a few kids had been causing trouble in the back last week. I was a little nervous because it was my first time working the night shift. The first 2 hours passed normally, with a few trucks stopping for gas and soda. I sat behind the counter reading a magazine, listening to the soft country music from the radio, which made me feel less lonely. Around 2 a.m., when everything was completely quiet, I heard a scratching sound from the back. The sound was like claws scratching wood. I looked up and listened, guessing it was the raccoons looking for food again. Raccoons are very common in Texas and often rummage through trash cans for leftovers. Our gas station is located near the woods, so this happens often. Usually, I just make a loud noise and they get scared and leave. I yelled to scare them away as usual, but the scratching only stopped for a few seconds and then started again. I was a little nervous because this had never happened before. I yelled louder, but the scratching not only didn't stop, it became more frantic. Then I heard a completely different sound, a loud banging as if someone was punching the drywall repeatedly. No raccoon could make that sound. A scary thought crossed my mind. Someone was in the storeroom. I slowly stood up, my eyes fixed on the door leading to the storeroom in the back. My mind told me I should immediately lock the front door and call the police, but a part of me thought I might be overreacting. Maybe it was just a homeless person looking for shelter. Curiosity mixed with a little pride made me want to check the situation myself. I slowly walked to the storeroom door and pushed it open slightly, making a soft, creaking sound. The scratching stopped completely. The air suddenly became tense. Although I hadn't seen anything inside yet, I already felt a sense of regret. Suddenly, the door burst open. In the dim light, I saw the figure of a man stumbling out. His appearance made me want to scream, but no sound could come out. His hair was messy and dirty, and his clothes were tattered, covered in black stains. But the scariest thing was his face. His skin had deep scratches, his eyes were wide, and his gaze was wild like a hungry animal. His mouth was wide open, revealing his yellowed teeth. He ran straight at me with insane speed. My survival instinct suddenly kicked in. I turned around and ran straight for the front door, running with all my might. Behind me, he was chasing me. I didn't dare to look back. Suddenly, a police car was parked right in front of the gas station door. 3 police officers were getting out of the car. I ran straight toward them. "Help me!" "There's a stranger in the storeroom," I yelled. 2 officers quickly drew their guns and went inside the store. One officer stayed behind to reassure me. "Calm down, we'll take care of it." A driver passing by here called the police. He saw a person acting strangely behind the gas station. From the description, it seemed like he was trying to dig through the wall. Right then, the shouts of the 2 officers rang out. The man was now completely aware of the police's presence. But instead of surrendering, he decided to run. He ran toward the back door of the gas station, trying to escape into the woods behind. The 2 officers immediately chased after him. It didn't take long for them to catch up and restrain him. The intruder's final screams rang out and then sank into silence. "Suspect is in custody," one of the officers reported over his radio. After that terrifying incident, I took a few days off to get my head straight. The owner also called a repairman to patch the hole in the wall behind the storeroom. He also decided to install more security cameras and motion sensor lights around the area. Since that night, there have been no more break-ins at the gas station. I have not agreed to work any night shifts for any reason ever again. It was so lucky that someone noticed in time and called the police. I'm grateful but also a little sad that I don't know who they are to thank them.
My name is Alex Peterson, 22 years old, a senior majoring in journalism at the University of Oregon. To pay for tuition and living expenses, I took a night shift job at a small gas station located on the outskirts of the city. The gas station is beside a quiet forest road. dimly lit by flickering neon lights. Nights here are often eerily silent, with only the sound of the wind howling through the roof and the groaning hum of the air conditioner breaking the stillness. My regular customer is a man named Todd. I don't remember when I first met Todd, but I'm sure it was on an early autumn night. He walked into the store when the clock struck 2 a.m., tall, slightly hunched, with hair disheveled as if it hadn't been combed in days. Todd's eyes were deep, carrying an indescribable sadness. Todd was not an easy customer. He just bought alcohol, paid, and left without a word or even a glance at anyone. At first, I didn't pay much attention. Todd was just one of the odd customers I encountered during my night shifts, but what caught my attention was his regular presence every night. Each time he came back, Todd seemed to look worse. His clothes wrinkled, his face gaunt, and one time I even noticed a long scratch on his arm. But the strangest thing was Todd's gaze, which always lingered on me a few seconds longer than necessary, making me uneasy. One night, I saw Todd standing outside the parking lot for a long time before coming into the store. He didn't do anything, just stood there, head down, as if talking to himself. My breath froze as I thought about the possibility that he might have a gun or do something dangerous. But Todd just came in, quietly bought alcohol, and left. Although nothing happened, my unease grew stronger with each visit. One stormy night, outside the wind howled, blowing fallen leaves and slamming against the gas station windows. The rain poured down in torrents, and lightning split the dark sky. I stood behind the counter, trying to finish an assignment on my laptop, the sound of the rain relentless in the background, when the gas station door suddenly swung open. Todd walked in, soaked to the bone, water dripping from his coat and forming a small puddle on the tile floor, which was oddly tinted red. This time, Todd didn't just buy alcohol as usual. He stood at the counter, his bloodshot eyes staring at me with an empty expression. "I've done something terrible," Todd said, his voice hoarse, almost inaudible. "I'll need a place to hide." My heart raced. I tried to stay calm and asked if he needed help. But Todd didn't answer. He just stared out the window, as if fearing something was chasing him. Then he quickly moved towards the back of the store, towards the bathroom. When Todd disappeared from sight, I realized my hands were trembling uncontrollably. I was about to call the police, but before I could dial, the entire gas station went dark. Everything was submerged in darkness. I quickly grabbed the flashlight from the counter and called Todd's name, but there was no answer. In the thick darkness, I heard strange noises coming from the bathroom, a small but distinct sound, like metal falling to the floor. I moved towards the sound, the flashlight beam trembling as it scanned every corner of the store. As I got closer to the bathroom door, I noticed it was slightly ajar. The flashlight light peeked through the crack, revealing a trail of muddy footprints leading from the door inside. I gently pushed the door open, the light sweeping through the empty room. No one was there, but the unease didn't dissipate. It felt like someone was watching me from the shadows. Another noise rang out, and before I could turn around, a strong force shoved me to the floor. Todd was standing there, his eyes wild with panic and a crazed gleam. He held a metal rod in his hand. I screamed, trying to fight back, but Todd was stronger than I had thought. A sharp pain shot from my head as he swung the rod down. The last thing I saw before I blacked out was his twisted smile. Not the smile of a victor, but the smile of someone who had lost all humanity. When I woke up, everything was quiet. My head ached, and blood still trickled from the wound on my forehead. Todd was gone. I called the police and told them everything. They searched the gas station and the surrounding area, but found nothing except muddy footprints inside the bathroom. A few days later, the terrifying story was revealed. Through the news, I learned that Todd had killed his wife in a drunken rage the night before. Her body was found in a small house near the gas station, and Todd had managed to escape. I quit my job at the gas station soon after. Every time I think back, I can't forget Todd's wild eyes and that haunting smile. But what's even scarier is the thought that, out there, Todd is still free, and the darkness he carries continues to haunt a hidden corner of this world.
I worked the night shift at a Subway, a small shop next to a gas station, where people stopped in a hurry on their way home. The smell of toasted bread, fresh vegetables, and deli meats mixed with the familiar greasy air of the kitchen. The fluorescent lights on the ceiling emitted a cold, harsh glow, reflecting off the glass counter full of bacon and sliced cheese. He started showing up about 2 weeks ago. A middle-aged man wearing a wrinkled shirt, his brown hair thin and greasy. He didn't cause trouble, just ordered a regular beef sandwich with extra mayonnaise. But what bothered me was his gaze. Every time I stood behind the counter, he stared at me. Not the casual glance of a customer, but a persistent, probing look. When I wrapped the sandwich, he asked me what my name was. When he paid, his hand lingered on mine longer than necessary. The next time he came back, still with that look. This time he complimented me, saying I was pretty. He asked if I wanted to go out after work. I smiled politely and declined, but he didn't stop. One night he called the shop, his voice deep and raspy. "Is this Glenda?" I froze. He knew my name. He asked where I lived. I hung up. I told my manager, but there wasn't much to be done about it. "Just a weird customer, don't worry." After that, he disappeared. I felt relieved, but that feeling didn't last long. One Friday night, I finished my shift at 11 p.m. It was colder than usual. The subway glass door reflected my pale face under the dim lights of the parking lot. I took off my apron, adjusted my messy hair before stepping outside. My brother, Mason, always told me to be more careful. He didn't like me working the night shift alone. "Guys like him could be following you, Glenda. If anything happens, call me." Mason had picked me up many times, especially after I told him about the creepy customer. He didn't like the way I shrugged it off when I talked about him, but I always thought Mason was overreacting. That night, I told Mason I could go home on my own. But just 10 minutes later, I wished I had listened to him. Near the exit, a figure stood under a streetlight. I froze. The person was dressed as a clown. A large, baggy red and white striped suit, a curly wig, and a face painted white with a bright red smile stretched unnaturally wide. The clown held out a red balloon to me, swaying lightly in the wind. I didn't move, not knowing how to react. The clown said nothing, just brought the balloon closer. My heart pounded so hard I could hear it in my chest. This had to be a joke, right? Someone hired a clown to mess with me? I reached out slowly, took the balloon. As soon as I grabbed it, he turned and walked away, quickly disappearing into the darkness. The balloon felt different, like it was heavier. I didn't think much of it, turning back toward my car. Suddenly there was a loud pop. Bang! I jumped, the string of the balloon slipping from my hand. In an instant, a puff of white smoke shot out from the torn balloon, swirling into a thick cloud right in front of me. I gasped in shock, and immediately, the sharp chemical scent hit my nose, making my throat burn and tighten. A pungent odor overwhelmed all my senses, causing my stomach to twist. The more I coughed, the more white dust filled my mouth, my lungs. I staggered, my legs losing strength, and everything in front of me blurred. My throat felt dry, my heart pounded uncontrollably, out of rhythm. My ears rang, and all I could hear was the sound of my own labored breathing, desperate, as if I were drowning. Heavy footsteps pounded behind me, Darkness rushed toward me. He pressed on me. I heard his heavy breathing right next to my ear. "I've been waiting a long time for this, Glenda." I struggled, but my limbs were weak. A loud yell rang out. Footsteps rushed forward, and his body was yanked away from me. I blinked, trying to regain my senses. Mason, my brother, stood there, his fists clenched, breathing heavily. The man crawled to his feet, but Mason was quicker. Another punch, this time harder, enough to knock him to the ground. He cursed and groaned, holding his face. The police arrived, and when the lights flashed on his face, I saw him clearly. The white paint on his face had smeared from sweat, revealing pale skin and greasy brown hair. It was none other than the regular customer at Subway. I froze. A cold shiver ran down my spine as I realized the truth. He had always been there, watching me, waiting. I saw Mason say something to the police, but my ears were ringing. He was arrested on the spot, and Mason took me to the hospital. After that, I quit my job at Subway. I still thought about him, regretting not listening to Mason. I wondered how long he had been planning this. How many days had he been watching me? If Mason hadn't shown up, what would have happened? I remembered his face when he handed me the red balloon. It was the smile of someone who knew he was about to get exactly what he wanted. The traffic light turned green. I drove off, trying not to think about what had just happened. By chance, I glanced at the back seat through the rearview mirror, and there it was, a red balloon, lying there, rolling on the seat. I don't know when it got there.
My name is Leo. My current job is manning the Oasis Fuel gas station, sandwiched between Highway 69 and a seemingly endless wall of pine forest in East Texas. By day, this place is just a dull stopover, with the roar of trucks and asphalt melting heat. But when night falls, it transforms into an isolated island of light in an ocean of darkness, and the silence is no longer peaceful, but a void waiting to be filled by fear. I'm not easily spooked, but working the night shift here week after week is enough to wear down anyone's nerves. The loneliness gnaws at you. You start hearing strange noises in the hum of the refrigerator, seeing movements in the corner of your eye that aren't there when you look directly. Most of the time, I tell myself it's just my tired mind playing tricks on me. Until that night. The air was thick, heavy, almost windless. Around almost 3 a.m, I was standing outside the door, trying in vain to get some fresh air, my eyes gazing absently towards the dark edge of the forest. I squinted, trying to pierce the haze, and then I saw a figure standing motionless at the edge of the woods. I thought maybe it was a driver whose car broke down somewhere on the road, heading to the gas station for help. But why were they standing at the edge of the forest, not by the road? I kept looking, and suddenly saw the figure raise its hand, as if waving me over. I waved back after a second's thought. Then, the figure seemed to recede back into the darkness of the forest. "Hey!" I called out, trying to keep my voice from trembling. "Is everything okay? Do you need help?" No answer. Only the other arm continuing that eerie beckoning gesture. I hesitated, took a deep breath, turned on my phone's flashlight, and cautiously walked towards the edge of the woods. The figure seemed unreal, blurry like an apparition about to dissolve. When I was only a few steps away, close enough to realize there were no clear details to the figure, just a denser black shape amidst the darkness, it abruptly stopped the beckoning gesture. Then, without a sound, it vanished into the night as if it had never existed. I stood frozen, mouth agape. What the hell? A prank? A hallucination? Or something else? The way it disappeared was too fast. An inexplicable urge, an unspoken question echoed in my head. What was it? What did it want? I knew this was a bad idea, extremely bad, but I did it anyway. I held the flashlight high. the weak beam cutting a trembling path into the thick darkness of the forest, and stepped inside. The air inside the forest was completely different, cooler, damper, and heavy with the scent of decaying leaves, damp earth, and an unpleasant, pungent odor I couldn't identify. The flashlight beam only illuminated a small circle in front of me. The silence here was even more terrifying than outside, oppressive, heavy, as if the forest itself was holding its breath. I slowed down, straining every sense. The pounding of my heart in my chest drowned out my own footsteps. "Hello?" I called softly, my voice almost a whisper. "Is anyone here?" Only the faint echo of my own voice answered. I continued a little deeper, the flashlight beam sweeping across moss-covered tree trunks, dense fern bushes. I felt like someone was watching me from all sides, from the darkness between the trees, from above. Then I heard whispering. It was very faint, mixed with the rare light breeze rustling the leaves. It sounded like many voices whispering at once, a ghostly chorus echoing from afar. I stopped, trying to pinpoint the source of the sound. It seemed to come from all directions, surrounding me. "Someone?" I repeated, my voice now trembling noticeably. "This isn't funny." I swept the flashlight beam wildly around, but only saw trees and darkness. Fear began to tighten its grip on my throat. I had to get out of here immediately. I turned, trying to remember the direction I had come from, but in the darkness and panic, everything looked the same. The whispering still followed me, sometimes like weak pleas, sometimes like wicked giggles. And then, as my flashlight beam swept across a gap between two large trees, I saw it. A face. It was disgustingly pale, as if carved from plaster or white bone. No hair, no ears, no distinct nose. But the eyes, oh God, they were black pits, deep, completely empty. I couldn't scream. My throat felt constricted. My feet felt frozen to the ground. All I could do was stand there, facing that terrible empty gaze, while the surrounding whispers became urgent, frantic. A tiny click from the dying flashlight in my hand snapped me back to reality. Survival instinct kicked in hard. I no longer cared about direction, just bolted towards where I vaguely sensed a faint glimmer of light. Branches whipped my face, roots tripped my feet, causing me to stumble repeatedly. The whispering still pursued me closely. Finally, the neon lights of Oasis Fuel appeared before me like a rescuing beacon. I burst out of the forest, ran across the lot, reached the gas station door. My hands shook so badly, I could barely get the key in the lock. I threw myself inside, slammed the door, locked it. I leaned against the door, gasping for breath, my whole body trembling. I looked through the glass door, towards the edge of the woods, only the silent night and the still rows of trees. But I knew it wasn't a hallucination. The remaining hours of my shift turned into a living hell. I sat frozen behind the counter, not daring to take my eyes off the windows and the camera monitor. Every noise, no matter how small, made my heart leap. I needed to do something to distract myself, to prove I wasn't going crazy. I tidied up a bit, wiped down the counter and inside the drawer. When I opened the drawer, underneath some old receipts and dried-up pens was a worn old leather-bound logbook. I flipped through the scrawled handwritten pages, noting minor incidents, broken gas pump, customer complaints, power outage, all the usual things from any shift. But then, near the end of the book, I stopped at a page written in different handwriting, shaky and hurried. The date was almost a year ago. The writer's name was Daniel. Most of his log entries were as normal as the others, but the last entry, just a few short lines, scrawled and almost illegible. Saw it again tonight. Standing at the edge of the woods, waving, "Don't go in there. It doesn't want to help." It wants... The writing ended abruptly there, as if the writer was interrupted or too terrified to continue. In the bottom corner of the page, a small drawing, a round, pale face and two large, deep black dots for eyes. That was it. The face I saw in the woods. A new wave of cold horror washed over me. I wasn't the first. Daniel had seen it, and maybe he didn't get out. What happened to Daniel? I shot up, staring out the window. Maybe Daniel, or some other previous victim, their spirit trapped, forced to repeat that beckoning act night after night, to lure new prey for that pale face. As the first faint light of dawn appeared, I hastily ended my shift, ran to my car, and drove off as fast as I could. I said nothing to the person taking over the shift, just hoped he wouldn't be as curious as I was. I drove straight back to my apartment in the nearby town, heart still racing. I had left the gas station, left the forest, but I knew I hadn't really escaped it. The image of that pale face with the bottomless black eyes haunted me. Oasis Fuel was a hunting ground, and like Daniel before me, I had seen the true face of that predator. Will I one night become the next shadow standing at the edge of the woods, waving another lonely soul into the darkness? I don't know. And that not knowing, along with the image of those bottomless black eyes, is the real horror that will follow me for the rest of my life. The dashboard clock glowed 10:47 p.m. as I pulled into the Shell station near my place. My gas tank was practically on empty. I had to fill up tonight, or I'd be stranded on my way to work tomorrow morning. No one was visible in the gas station area. The convenience store next to it was brightly lit, looking like it was still open for business. After filling my tank, I headed into the convenience store to pay. The automatic glass doors slid open, and a chime beeped. Inside, it was brightly lit, but no one was behind the counter. "Hello?" I called out, but no one answered. I heard the sound of running water from the restroom in the back of the store. Maybe the employee was in there and would be out in a minute. I decided to browse around and grab a few things while I waited. I walked down the snack aisle, picking up a bag of Doritos and a pack of cookies. As I stood in front of the cooler, choosing a bottle of water, I caught a glimpse of a dark shadow darting across the far end of the aisle, near the magazine rack. I froze, my heart quickening. I stared into the aisle for a full minute, listening. I'm listening for everything, but I see nothing. Probably just the shadow of a tree outside from a passing car. Or maybe I was just tired and imagining things. I took my items to the counter and waited. 5 minutes passed. 10 minutes. The running water in the restroom just kept going. "Excuse me, anyone here?" I called again, louder this time. Still no answer. A sense of unease started to creep in. I moved closer to the restroom, calling out again. Silence, except for the water. I tried the door, but it was locked. The employee was probably inside and in trouble. I grabbed my phone and called 911. I'm at the Shell gas station on Elm Street. No employee visible, and I've heard water running in the restroom since I got here. I'm worried something might have happened. We'll send a patrol car right over. I waited outside the store. About 15 minutes later, a police car pulled up. 2 officers stepped out. "Are you the one who called this in?" "That's right. I came in about 20 minutes ago. No one's been at the counter, and I've been hearing constant running water from the restroom." They quickly entered the store, and I followed. The younger officer went straight to the restroom while the other checked around the counter. "It's locked," the younger officer said. "Anyone in there? Police!" Still only silence, accompanied by the persistent sound of running water. After a moment, they decided to force the door. The lock broke, and the younger officer stepped inside first. The very next second, he backed out, his face a mask of horror, without saying another word. I couldn't see what was inside, but when the door swung open, revealing the back of it, my body went cold. A deep red coating splattered across the back of the door, forming streaks and long drips running down. A section of the restroom floor that I could glimpse from my angle was also stained red. Within the next 20 minutes, the place became a crime scene. Ambulances, more police cars, detectives, and a forensics team. They strung yellow tape around the area. I was kept there as the sole witness. I recounted the entire incident to a detective. About an hour later, a forensics officer announced, "The victim is Kevin Morrison, 23 years old. He was working the 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. shift. Appears to have been attacked with a blunt object, passed away about an hour before you called the police." I was stunned, but what truly shocked me was the time frame. That meant I had arrived at the gas station right after it happened. The dark shadow I saw earlier wasn't an illusion. "We'll be in touch if we need any more information. You can head home," a detective told me. I drove home feeling unsettled. I parked my car in the garage and entered the house. Flicking on the kitchen light, I grabbed a beer from the fridge. I needed to calm down after what had just happened. As I was drinking my beer and looking out the kitchen window, I saw a dark shadow move across the backyard. My heart pounded. I turned off the kitchen light and looked closer. Nothing, just trees and the fence. Was I hallucinating? I went upstairs to my bedroom and changed. I was about to go to bed when I saw the dark shadow again. This time, it was through my bedroom window, moving along the front yard. Not an illusion. Someone was outside my house. I called 911 for the second time that night. Someone's breaking into my yard. The address is 1247 Wellington Street. After the call ended, I sat in the dark bedroom looking out. 5 minutes later, a police car arrived. One of the officers was the same one I'd met at the gas station. He recognized me. I told him about the dark shadow I'd seen. They checked around the house with flashlights but found no signs of forced entry or footprints. "You might just be really stressed after tonight, sir. We'll patrol this area more frequently." After they left, I locked the door carefully and checked all the windows. But I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about the victim and the dark figure at the gas station. At 3 a.m., I heard a noise downstairs, like someone opening a kitchen cabinet. I grabbed my baseball bat and slowly crept down. Light streamed from the open refrigerator. "Who's there?" I called out. A man turned to face me, a large knife in his hand. He spoke, surprisingly calmly and casually. He saw me take the money from the safe. I didn't have a choice. "Now you've seen me too," he said, stepping towards me with the knife. I swung the baseball bat. It connected with his wrist, and the knife clattered to the floor. He yelled in pain, then lunged at me. I bolted for the front door, burst into the street, and yelled for help. My neighbor's lights flickered on, and they helped me call the police. Within minutes, the police arrived. This time, there were 2 cars and 6 officers. They surrounded my house. But when they went inside, they found no one. The knife was still on the kitchen floor. The back door was open. He had escaped. The police took me to a hotel for the night to ensure my safety. 3 days later, they caught the culprit when he tried to use the gas station employee's credit card at another gas station about 50 miles south. He was identified as Danny, 28, a drug addict with a history of theft. According to his confession, he went to the gas station intending to steal money from the safe. Kevin, the employee, discovered him. During the struggle, Danny knocked Kevin unconscious with a wrench and dragged him into the restroom, intending to lock him in. But Kevin unexpectedly woke up. Danny, in a panic, committed the horrific act. In court, Danny was sentenced to life in prison without parole. Since then, every time I drive past that Shell station, I still remember that fateful night. I'm Kate, 22 years old, and I'm a senior at Ohio State. My boyfriend Alden is a year older than me. He's a mechanic at a small garage outside of town. We've been together for almost 2 years now. That day, Alden picked me up after class. We grabbed dinner at a restaurant in the city, then went to a late movie. After the movie, Alden drove me home. I was in the passenger seat, looking out the window. On both sides of the road were endless corn and soybean fields. The car's headlights lit up the empty lane. Every now and then, a car or two would zoom past us in the opposite direction. "We're almost out of gas," Alden said, looking at the fuel gauge. The needle was almost touching the red line. I checked the GPS on my phone. "We're still 20 minutes from your place." "I don't think we'll make it home. We need to find a gas station nearby." He said, "I think I saw a gas station around here once when I was driving through." This was an area I'd never been to before. The road was narrow, with dense woods on both sides. The houses were sparse, hundreds of yards apart. The air in the car grew silent. I felt a little uneasy looking out the window. The dark shadows from the trees seemed to move with the car. "Is this place really out of the way?" I asked. He'd only been on this road once too. After about 5 minutes of driving on the deserted road, we saw a faint light ahead. A gas station sign appeared. It was a small gas station with 2 pumps in front of a convenience store. There wasn't a soul in sight. Is this place even open? I looked around. The pumps are still lit up. It should be fine. Alden pulled in, stopping at pump number 2. When the engine turned off, we were surrounded by absolute silence. I glanced around and suddenly shivered. "This place feels a little creepy," I whispered. "Let's just get gas and go. You wait in the car for me, okay?" Alden closed the car door softly. I sat in the car, watching Alden. He was pumping gas and looking at his phone. In the rearview mirror, I saw a white car. It was driving very slowly, approaching the gas station, then stopped about 30 feet from us. Alden was looking at his phone, completely oblivious to the car that had just appeared. The headlights of the car behind us were still on, so I couldn't see clearly who was inside. A few more minutes passed. The white car didn't turn off its engine, and no one got out. I felt strange. Are they not planning to get gas? The white car suddenly backed up a little. Maybe they're thinking about it and decided not to get gas, I thought. The dark outline of a person sitting in the driver's seat appeared. The person sat still, seemingly looking towards Alden. The driver's side window slowly rolled down. A hand reached out. In the hand was something black. I squinted to see more clearly. A black handgun. My eyes widened as much as they could. My mouth fell open. My hands trembled, dropping my phone onto the car floor. The gun slowly pointed towards Alden. My whole body froze, a finger on the trigger. "Alden, look out!" My voice shattered the silence. Alden jumped, turning his head to look at me, a very surprised look on his face. The person in the white car heard me scream. The gun disappeared back into the car in a flash. The car door immediately closed. Alden stood there looking at me, not understanding what was happening. "Kate? What's wrong?" The white car suddenly made a sharp U-turn. The tires screeched loudly against the pavement, creating a piercing sound. The car sped up, driving very fast towards the main road. The red taillights grew smaller and then disappeared completely. I sat in the car, shaking uncontrollably. My heart was pounding so fast, I thought it would jump out of my chest. My breath was shallow, and my hands were drenched in sweat. Alden pulled the gas nozzle out, closed the gas cap, and then ran over to me. He opened the car door. "What's wrong with you? What happened?" I looked at him, my eyes filled with tears. "Alden, didn't you see? That white car?" "What white car?" Alden looked in the direction of the road. "There was a white car parked right there. The person in the car, he had a gun, Alden." Alden looked at me as if he didn't believe me. "A gun?" "He was holding a gun pointed right at you. I saw it very clearly." Alden looked around one more time. The road was completely deserted. Alden was silent for a moment, then quickly finished filling the tank and drove away as fast as he could. I kept checking the rearview mirror, afraid the white car would appear and chase us. "Kate, are you sure you saw a gun?" "Absolutely, Alden. If I hadn't yelled, you would have..." I couldn't finish my sentence. Alden drove really fast. His hands gripped the steering wheel tightly. When we got home, we parked in the garage and locked the doors carefully. I said we had to call the police immediately, but Alden strongly disagreed. "If we call the police without evidence, they'll think we're making it up. Just forget about it." I was surprised by Alden's attitude, but I didn't want to make a bigger deal out of it either. A week later, while helping Alden clean up, I accidentally found an old photo box at the bottom of a closet. In it were pictures of him with a group of tough-looking people, their arms covered in tattoos and strange symbols. When I asked about the photos, Alden just said they were old friends and quickly put them away. That night, I couldn't sleep no matter how hard I tried. The image of the gun haunted me, but it was Alden's strange behavior that unsettled me the most. Those photos kept flashing through my mind. I quietly started to find out. Through social media, I tracked down a few faces from the pictures. One was serving time for arms trafficking. Another had mysteriously disappeared last year. Every time I brought it up, Alden either brushed me off or snapped at me. The next morning, I left him a note that read, "Don't come looking for me." I decided to get out of town. I didn't know the full truth, but one thing was clear. If I stayed any longer, I might never get the chance to leave. It has been weeks, but that night still lingers in my mind as if it just happened yesterday. I still remember the cold, exhausting feeling as I drove down Highway 61. But what I can't forget is that man. I never imagined that what seemed like an ordinary encounter would turn out to be the beginning of a nightmare. The gas light came on. I only had enough gas for about 10 more miles. My phone's map showed only one gas station about 11 miles away. I hoped I had enough fuel to make the trip. 10 minutes later, I saw a faint light ahead, and an old gas station appeared. I pulled up to a pump, swiped my credit card, started pumping gas, and looked around. Besides my car, there was an old, dark blue pickup truck parked in the corner of the station, mostly hidden by the shadows. That's when I noticed a figure standing near the blue truck, a tall man wearing a dark jacket. I tried to act normal, focusing on pumping gas, but my heart started pounding. The shadowy figure started moving toward me, slowly, step by step. I could hear his shoes crunching on the gravel. The gas nozzle wasn't even full yet, but all I wanted to do was jump in my car and speed away immediately. "Good evening, friend." The man's voice was deep and hoarse. He stepped into the light, his face long and gaunt, with stubble and deep-set eyes under the brim of his hat. "Are you driving alone?" I nodded, not wanting to talk, but also not wanting to seem scared. "Yeah, I'm heading home. My car broke down. I need to get to Millfield. It's only about 30 miles from here. Could you give me a ride?" I looked at him, trying to size him up. He was half a head taller than me, with broad shoulders and large hands. There was something bulging in his jacket pocket, and I didn't want to know what it was. "Sorry, I'm not going through Millfield. I'm going the other way." The man's smile disappeared. "Millfield is on Highway 61. You're on this road. I'm turning off at the next intersection." The man was silent for a moment, his eyes staring intently at me. "There's no intersection ahead. You're lying." The gas nozzle had stopped. I slowly removed the nozzle from my car, closed the gas cap, not taking my eyes off him. "I really need to get to Millfield tonight. It's important." "Just a short ride." The man took another step toward me. I shook my head, moving towards my car door. "I can't. Sorry." He reached into his jacket pocket, but instead of pulling out something dangerous, he pulled out a wad of cash. "I'll pay you $200, just for 30 miles. "No thanks." I opened my car door, quickly sliding into the driver's seat. He put his hand on my car door, stopping me from closing it. $500. "Buddy, I really need help." "I'm really sorry, sir," I said, trying to pull the door shut. The man wouldn't let go. Instead, he leaned down, his face just inches from mine. The smell of whiskey and cigarettes wafted from his breath. "Listen, I don't want any trouble, but I have to get to Millfield tonight. Understand?" I was about to answer when another pair of headlights shone into the gas station. A police patrol car slowly pulled in. The man immediately let go of my car door and backed up a few steps. The police car parked, and an officer got out. The man's demeanor instantly changed. He became relaxed and friendly. "Is there a problem?" the officer asked, his gaze moving between me and the man. "No problem at all, officer. I was just asking for directions to Millfield." The officer nodded, but I noticed he was observing the man closely. "Could I see some ID, sir?" The man hesitated for a second, then said, "I left it in my truck." "Let me get it." He turned his back and walked toward the blue pickup truck. That's when the officer moved closer to me, lowering his voice just enough to be heard. Are you willing to give him a ride? I shook my head. I'm really not going through Millfield. I see. Better safe than sorry. His eyes quickly shifted towards the truck. Suddenly, the truck's engine roared to life. The blue pickup truck sped out of the gas station at a crazy speed. I stood there, stunned. He just said his car broke down, and now he was speeding away like nothing was wrong. The officer quickly reported it over his radio, his voice tense as he described the truck and requested backup. He turned back to me, his eyes more serious than ever. I recounted every detail of my encounter with the man. The officer used his radio again, requesting a lookout for the truck, suspecting foul play. For me, he sent another colleague to escort me home to ensure my safety. 2 months passed. Life slowly returned to normal, but I couldn't completely shake the uneasy feeling from that night. One evening, I was watching the news as usual. An image of a familiar face suddenly appeared on the screen, making my blood run cold. Deep-set eyes, a gaunt face. It was exactly the man from the gas station that night. Stuart Welch, 45 years old, serial killer. He murdered 5 victims in 3 years using the same method, faking a broken-down car, asking for a ride, then overpowering them and taking them to a remote location. I sat motionless, every detail flooding back. The news anchor continued. He was caught thanks to a report from a lucky witness who escaped 2 months ago. So, I could have been the 6th victim if that police officer hadn't shown up at the right time. If I'd agreed to give him a ride, things might have... I turned off the TV, sitting in silence. I was right to trust my gut feeling that murders often happen in deserted places. I never thought I'd almost become living proof of that statement. Since that night, I've never dared to drive alone on empty roads.